Okay, we're live. Welcome to the Friday afternoon business stream. If you don't know, I'm Nick Haralambis, an obsessive entrepreneur trying to help other entrepreneurs through extremely odd and extraordinary times with my business stream. I'm really glad to be talking to Lars today, who's one of the co-founders of Pargo. Lars, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So before we kick off, if this is your first time using the platform, please give us a wave, say hi in the chat. Then if you look at the bottom, there is a section where you can ask us a question. Please ask the questions through that tab. Then we can vote the questions up and down, and Lars and I can have a good look at what's there. Hey, Robin, good to see you 2 days in a row. Becky, what's up? Nice to see you. Cool. So Lars, why don't we start by telling everyone who you are and what you're doing in Cape Town in South Africa?
Excellent, thanks. Hi guys, so I'm Lars. I am originally from the Netherlands. I arrived in Cape Town in 2012 with my now co-founder Dirk Hoekert. And back then we were working for Groupon. So we were working for Groupon in Amsterdam, and as Groupon was expanding all across the world, they asked us to join the team here in South Africa in Cape Town, which we very happily and gladly did. And 1.5, 2 years into that role here in South Africa, where I was mostly responsible for the logistics and deliveries of Groupon, I realized that I love this country too much, love the city too much to go back to the Netherlands, and B, that there's a lot of opportunities, especially in the logistics space. So made the decision to leave Groupon, but to stay in South Africa and to start Pargo. And quickly explain what Pargo is. Pargo is a technology business that is trying to solve the challenges around last mile delivery, so parcel delivery. And trying to make sure that e-commerce companies have more access to their users. And the unique thing that we do in that is adding a pickup point or click and collect model. So allowing consumers to get parcels delivered to stores, and then they can collect their parcels from the store. So if you live in an area where there's no street addresses, like a township, or if you don't want anybody to come to your door, we can get a parcel delivered to a pickup point on top of the normal delivery.
Cool. I'm curious, just having luckily in my world stepped out of retail and e-commerce last year when I sold Nick Harry. How has the uptake of click and collect gone? It's something quite new in South Africa, but obviously booming around the world. I assume that you're seeing this growth. Talk to us about the pre-COVID growth that you were seeing.
Yeah, so it's been click and collect as a service has been growing, as you said, a lot around the world, but I think South Africa is really at the same level. The growth we've seen, I think we are really the company that kind of introduced it in South Africa, and it's been tremendous. When we started in 2005, only 5% of consumers would choose click and collect, and what I mean by that is that if Nick Harry would offer a normal home delivery and a click and collect option, 5% would choose click and collect, 95% would choose home delivery. And now we have clients where we see it going up to 50 and even 70% of consumers choosing click and collect. On average, we are sitting somewhere between 15 and 20% of people choosing click and collect. So as a category, those has obviously grown a lot. And then obviously in total numbers, just because e-commerce is growing, that category also grows. So yeah, it's been good. We can see a lot of growth there.
Yeah, that makes sense. So let's, dive right into it. How has Pargo been affected by the global shutdown, the pandemic, and the levels that have been introduced?
Yeah, it's been hurting us. I think like any business, the total lockdown and the harsh restrictions that we have in South Africa is affecting everybody. As a company in the logistics sector, we are deemed essential service. So we have been operational during this whole period, but we were only allowed to ship and to deliver essential goods. In our case, that means that a very big percentage of our clients is not operational at the moment, and means that we're not doing any deliveries, we're doing a few deliveries for those clients that are essential. So Clicks is a client of ours. We see that their orders obviously have skyrocketed. That's going very well. But outside of Clicks, and then we have a few telecommunications companies that work with us. Outside of that, we basically had to stop everything. From a like from an internal company people perspective, we actually made a decision to work from home about 2 weeks before the lockdown. So we were quite early on that. We were lucky because we, just to be clear, as a business as Pargo, we're a platform, so we don't have drivers, we don't have warehouses. We partner up with existing infrastructure in South Africa. We use courier companies, we use warehouses, we integrate with that. We're really the technology side. So our team, is a team of 35 here in Cape Town. So we made a move to start working from home quite early, and that's going very well. And now, after what is it now, 5 weeks, so for us 7 weeks at home, I think it's okay. And for us, the big day is actually today that we've gone into level 4, and a lot of our clients are opening up their stores today and have asked us to start deliveries again on the weekend and on Monday. So hopefully that's going to recover a little bit and to help us get back to levels that we are hoping to do.
And I'm curious, how did you guys weather the downturn period? I mean, it sounds like you haven't laid anyone off, no retrenchments. Is it because you're VC backed, or did you have cash flow? Like, talk to me about how survival looked.
So I think we are VC backed, but that's been 2.5 years ago. So that cash has run out. We've run out of that cash basically, but we've managed. Our big focus over the last 5 years has been to become profitable and to have positive cash flows. So we managed to do that. We've managed to create a bit of a buffer. So from a cash perspective, we are in a good situation. It's actually quite interesting because always the discussion between us and investors and shareholders has always been, are we going fast enough? Should we not be burning more cash? Or, and you have obviously the very venture-backed venture capitalists that are just like push harder, and the more kind of a little bit more realists that say it's good to have a bit of cash for hard times. So. With a crisis like this, I think the realists have been proven right this time, and it's been a really great thing for us, and a blessing that we are in that situation. From a company perspective, I think it's really interesting. We've really gone through a few phases. I would say the first week or two has been almost kind of trying to get thinking about safety of our people, thinking about safety of ourselves, of our families, of our clients. That I think everybody went through that phase, a lot of calling each other, calling clients, calling people, just what is happening, nobody really knowing it. We actually saw like the first 2 weeks leading up to the lockdown a really spike, a lot of people buying extra stuff, and then this lockdown starts and it kind of comes all to a complete standstill. Then it's kind of, then it was, okay, we've secured safety of our people and of ourselves. Now we need to think about safety of the business. So, straight away with our finance team in switching to gear to just go through all the numbers, put out different scenarios, and, kind of get into survival mode. So what we did is we put a survival budget together, literally saying, no, just assume the worst of the worst kind of thing. And what is that going to mean for us? So that took us, let's say, a week. And then I think out of that, we kind of we came out of that. And now the last 2 weeks have been, okay, now we've done all that. What is now next? And now we've kind of been, looking at, we can't be in this survival mode forever. We also have to start thinking again about investing and about risks and what are we going to do. So I think that's now where we're in, trying to figure out what is going to work, what's not going to work, what's going to happen, how is this going to affect the economy, like all those kind of questions are now coming up. I think that's it's really been from kind of complete safety, survival, and now kind of revival, and hopefully the next phase is going to be surging, and that we can actually come out of it stronger. It's been a strange time.
No doubt. So I've been talking a lot about recovery curves, and early on in the lockdown, people thought things would just jump back to the way that they were. No one was really planning for a drop in revenue from, let's say, January 100%, coming back in August. We're probably going to be at 50%, 40%, who knows? So how are you guys planning that? So you're planning in 6-week sprints. What does your recovery curve look like?
First, our normal budget and our normal growth as a scale up is we trying to focus on 100% growth year on year. So what we were on in January, February is not what we wanted to be in August, September. But what we've now done is we've kind of flatlined ourselves, or how you say that, we've kind of taken the January, February month kind of revenues, saying, okay, this is, let's just take that as our 0 point at that level without investing more, without we're kind of cash flow neutral, and that's good to go. So what we've done is we've put a scenario in place early on, which is kind of that survival worst case scenario, and assuming that it's going to take us as a business 6 months before we get back to the levels that we were on in February, right? That is not the level. That's not the level we wanted to be in August, September, but that's what we think we're going to be in. And our mindset has completely changed on that. Is what we're now thinking is that if we can get out of this year, without, let's say, with 0 growth, but at least without having to let go of our people, without losing clients, with all that kind of stuff, that would already be a huge win for us, right? I think for any kind of business. Yeah. But again, that was kind of the first phase, but I also don't want to stick in that mindset too long, because because to me that is actually it's great compared to the economy and to a lot of companies, but at the same time I feel it's losing, because we had these great plans for this year and we wanted to do all these amazing new features and new ideas, and just there's a lot of stuff that we want to roll out. So that's where we are in now, trying to figure out what's working, what's not working. Which is also the uncertainty that we're playing with now. But it also means that I think things will keep on changing. I think it's very difficult to predict. So I think worst case scenario 6 months. I think that's realistically. What's going to happen after that 6 months, I don't know, right? Is it then again going to grow, or are we going to just be flatlining from that 6 months every month, just kind of making our standard revenues without any growth? Having said all that, the first signs are quite optimistic, right? Or I'm quite optimistic about the first signs, because I do think we are in an industry that's going to benefit, possibly going to benefit from the situation. I think e-commerce is going to grow. I think people are going to buy more online. People are going to look more at digital services, and we are perfectly geared towards that and ready to help there and to kind of service our clients in that way.
Absolutely, that makes a lot of sense. So like a lot of other businesses around the world, your business is quite dependent on other businesses. You're kind of a B2B2C company. So companies like Yoko have set up supportsmall.co.za and worked with their clients and their partners. Is there anything specific you guys are doing with your clients and partners to try and get things back up to where they were?
Yeah, so that's the one. Those are basically the reasons why I'm optimistic. First, I think maybe it's one step back before I go into your question, but what I think is very almost a positive thing about this crisis is how it really, we really have to go back to our basics in every kind of way in the business, including in kind of your client relationship, right? And I think every good business has that all the time, but the amount of times I'm on the calls now and on the phone with our most important clients is way more than normal. It's also because everybody's at home, everybody has time. It's literally in the morning I get a WhatsApp, or on the weekends, just like, hey Lars, like now this weekend, a lot of our clients are getting ready, are going live, are getting ready to go live. You get a little WhatsApp, you can jump on the phone call straight away. You don't have to plan it. It's like, hey, what are you doing? Can I call you in 10 minutes? Yeah, actually, now not.
Yeah, I know where to go. Yeah.
But yeah. So that's one thing. And I think with that contact with the clients, obviously everybody's working together and everybody's super open to innovative ideas and to new things, right? So every idea that we've kind of pitched and brought up, the answer in this period has been, not sure we're going to do it, but send us a proposal and, we will most probably try it, right? As long as it's not crazy, we'll most probably try it. And let's just do a quick trial. And if it works, we'll work with you, right? So I think that's been quite positive. And I think the other optimistic thing is new business. So, I got literally a call on the night that the lockdown was announced, I think at 10, 11 o'clock in the evening after the speech of the president. I got a WhatsApp from the guys at Veul saying, hey, could we potentially look at, we've been speaking to them quite a while, but never been working together. But hey, could we speed up our process with you guys? And can we look at a solution? Which we then launched and got live in about 10 days. So there's also opportunities. At this moment, it's not that that's going to save our business. It's a small bit of it, but it's great to have those kind of things coming up. So we've seen that with Rain.
Yeah.
UCT made the decision this week to use our services, which is, and there's quite a lot happening in the educational sector because they have to completely rethink their way of doing lessons. So nobody's in the universities anymore. 90% of the population of their students will probably be able to go online, download stuff, and do all that. But you have the 10% that doesn't have the means, that doesn't have a laptop at home, doesn't have internet at home, that for whatever reason can't access their curriculum online. So we're seeing a lot of in the education sector talking to schools and universities saying, okay, can we use our pickup points to allow people to receive and send back assignments? And so we're seeing quite some traction happening there. So yeah, there's been a lot of collaboration and a lot of very positive outcomes, I guess, with our clients and with new businesses trying to just kind of work together. And I think that there's been a lot of we're all in this together. Everybody's, as I said before, everybody's open for new ideas. Everybody's working together to come up with a solution. And that's been positive. I mean, that's been great for us.
I think it's a great observation for anyone who's listening, that attention is cheaper now. People are looking for ways to engage, and you can get to very top tier the people in a business by just dropping them an email. They're not going anywhere. You can have a call with them. There's no need to set up a meeting. There's no coffees. You can just have a call. So if you're a younger entrepreneur, or you've been wondering if you should send out that pitch, now's the time. Like, you've got a captive audience. You may as well try and experiment now. And it's great to see that that's actually working for you guys. So if you've just joined us, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, just one thing I would like to add on that is, I think solve small problems, right? As in, I really have the feeling I've had these last kind of weeks is the same feeling I had when we just started the business, right? And that means that internally we're like high-fiving each other. If a client comes on board that is literally going to do, a few parcels with us, but it's like, cool, we've just solved the problem for another client. It's small, it's not a lot, it's the stuff we were like, high-fiving each other for in day one and in year one. And now on a normal week we onboard these kind of clients every day, and some of them I don't even see anymore. But this point is like every win, and I think as a business, try to solve a problem if it's even a small problem. And I think you're especially the client you're doing it for, they won't forget, right? And if you can do that, I think later on they will come back to you and potentially come back to you, and and there's something for you after this period.
Absolutely. I love that. Solve small problems. You don't have to boil the ocean or eat the elephant. Right now, it's about making one or two customers happy and making them grow with you over time. I think that's great. So if you've just joined us, there's a poll that you can answer. Have you ever used click and collect? Yes, no, or how the hell does that work? I've got a few questions that I'll get through. Bianca, I just want to address yours first. Are we ever going to see women storytellers on this platform? Absolutely. On my podcast, I've interviewed Rapalang Rabana, Aisha Pandor, authors from around the world. If you've got any suggestions, paste them in and I'll get them on board, no problem. If there's just so many around that there are not that many around, so it's hard to find. But absolutely, hit me, please tell me and I'll get them on. Then Adrian, is export of jewelry permitted in level 4? I'm really sorry, I have absolutely no idea. Lars, do you know?
I don't know. The list changes all the time, but there is. I mean, you can find that online. I mean, they publish it every time, so you can find exactly what's permitted and what's not permitted online.
Yeah. And then, Lars, a question for you that you don't have to spend too much time on. Do you have plans to expand your network outside of South Africa, or are you just staying in the borders for now?
We were doing that actually. We have plans, always have plans, and we're actually busy with the expansion outside of South Africa into Africa. So that is one of those, one of those strategies and one of those things that we have to put on hold and that we're not going to focus on for the time being. It just doesn't make sense at all at the moment. We can't even travel there. So we were planning to do that, but for now it's just going to wait on that one.
Cool, that makes sense. So let's talk about competitors. A friend of mine who's a business coach has been quite aggressive with the idea that you should look to your competitors. If they're dying, buy them cheaply, join with them, joint venture, take them over, do whatever. I don't know what your competitive landscape looks like right now in South Africa, but I'm sure that it's an open communication right now. Talk to us about how you're engaging with competition.
Yeah, so interesting thing for us because we're a platform model, our competition is often also our partners. So we work with a lot of the courier companies. You spoke about, I think there was already the first courier company that had to, I forget the name, but one of them already had to kind of have filed for bankruptcy. So it's definitely hurting them. But what I do see at the moment is that a lot of other technology startups, companies that work in kind of ride hailing or in food delivery have completely had to change their mindset and have moved into the parcel delivery space. So Uber Eats has been doing stuff with I think Checkers and MediRite and the Department of Health. Order In has moved into parcel deliveries. I read something about, I think it's Quench and Pick and Pay, or Quench and Woolies. So there's been a lot of those kind of companies that are moving into the parcel delivery space, which means that the space gets a bit more crowded. Everybody has kind of a different niche that they focus on, and we don't really see that I see that more as a opportunity than anything else. Right? You spoke about other things coming out of this with our clients. I mean, one of the things that we are looking at is on-demand deliveries. We don't have scooters, so we would have to partner up with one of the on-demand ride-hailing companies, for instance, to get that going. So I think it's more opportunity, but at the same time, over time, it does mean that there's going to be more. The space is going to be more crowded than it was. But I also think the market and the industry is going to grow a lot over time. So I think it will all even itself out. I think the winners will come out of it, and the guys that won't make it will leave, right?
Interesting. How do you see your business model fundamentally changing, specifically in relation to the COVID pandemic? Like, has it changed anything for you guys in the future, or are you just doing more of the same and then the market's opening up for you?
So maybe, I think not a lot is changing, but maybe just start with a kind of a thing I think we picked up quite early, like I think a mistake that we were going to make, or maybe we already made. So when it happened, when the lockdown started 5 weeks ago, we were thinking, okay, what do we do? And obviously the only companies that were still selling are the food delivery, the supermarkets. So our idea that week was, okay, we need to move into food delivery. And food delivery is very difficult, very different to parcel delivery. So for about a week, the whole team switched into gear. We started reaching out to Pick and Pay and Spar, and basically, wanted to do delivery of food. Spent some time with it, but luckily decided, okay, guys, this is not what we do. This is not what our business is. And I think so. We've stopped that. We're not doing that. Made a mistake or stopped the mistake just on time. But I think our where we're strong at is being this platform and helping online companies, or actually any company that has a B2C delivery, helping them get the parcel in the hands of their consumers. And I think that industry, or that category is gonna grow. I mean, just a few of our clients, as an example, TFG and KP and March, two big retailers. They, as a company, are going to feel the pain of this. It's going to be huge. It's going to be very hard on them. They're going to see that probably retail is going to decline year on year. But the percentage that buys online in South Africa has for years just been that kind of like 1% of total retail is online. I think that 1% is going to grow. I don't know to what, but if it's going to be 5 or 10%. And that means that as an absolute number, it's going to grow. I know it's not going to help Woolies or TFG or KP and that much, because their total revenues are down, and they probably still have to maybe let go of people. But the guy in the digital team and the online and e-commerce sales is definitely going to start growing, and we see that all over the world. So from a Pargo perspective, we sticking to what we were already planning. We had to change a few things here and there, right? Prioritize, put things forward, put some things on hold, but overall our strategy is a little bit, has been delayed. Kind of whatever is happening now, we can't do a lot. But as I said before, today is the first day that's a lot of the retailers are opening stores. From Monday, we're going to start sales picking up again, and I think from there on we're going to see that we're going to grow again, and actually don't have to make tremendous big changes on our strategy or on our plan. So overall, quite happy and quite optimistic about the space we're in.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. A lot of the futurists and trends experts are saying the whole world is different. Everything is going to change. And I fundamentally don't believe that. I think people still want to have parcels delivered. I think people are still going to go to restaurants. I think people are still going to hug and high five in a year from now. So
No.
a lot of advice that's being given out is shift your business away from what you did. I think that's terrible advice. Like, I mean, I'm really excited to hear that you guys looked at the option and went, actually, hold on. This is not what we do, and the world will come back to us. We just have to stay alive long enough for it to get there.
I think that's it. I also think it does depend on which industry you're in. I mean, we are a company that thrives on e-commerce, so if e-commerce grows, we're good. And I also think it's not just I'm saying this because I think or feel this. It's like it's already been proven already just in the last 5 weeks. I mean, I thought a great example I was reading about is that Pick n Pay and ShopRite have implemented QR scanning payment, right? So basically SnapScan and Zapper. I've been asking, I've never understood why. I love SnapScan and Zapper. I use it everywhere. I literally never have cash on me. And I did not understand why not one big retailer in this country has that, right? Why can I pay with SnapScan at every coffee shop and restaurant I go to, but when I go into the Pick n Pay, I have to grab my cash from my card, right? I've been asking myself that question forever. And now in like this thing happens, boom, it's live. And we see a lot of that kind of movement. So I do think, that we're in an industry that this is going to actually accelerate our industry. Look, if you're in the travel industry, Travel Stars, for instance, or Booking or any, Airbnb, like those guys obviously probably are going to have to rethink and kind of come up with a new model because I don't see that picking up anytime soon. But I do agree with you. I think it's an interesting discussion. I don't really know the answer, but also like another thing I've been asking myself is like, like in South Africa, we have Johannesburg and Cape Town and Durban, but mostly Johannesburg and Cape Town, and we fly a lot, right? It's not good for the environment. It's not good for our time. It's not efficient. It's not good for anybody. And like anybody in business is just doing that weekly, bi-weekly, and just those, is this change with doing all these meetings on Zoom? Is it going to change that? On the one hand, I do think I hope it's going to change it. But on the other hand, especially a bit more the old school guys that I speak to in these kind of calls, I hear a lot of, like, it's not the same. I still need to give you a hand. I have to look you in the eye. I'm like, do you really, right? Like, what is it? I feel we're being almost as productive now than we were then, right? And instead of having 5 meetings to make a decision, we're just having a half an hour Zoom call, which I don't need to, I don't have to travel, I don't have to do anything. If it's 2 o'clock, 1 to 2, I'm ready for it. And, 1 plus 3, I'm done with it. And it's way more efficient. So I wonder where this is going to go. I hope we're going to also these kind of things as a bit of a positive and kind of see some change around that.
Yeah, that Joburg to Cape Town flight is, I think, in the top 3 most busy flights in the world, actually. So I'm with you. I hope that changes. I mean, I've spent more than enough time on those freaking flights. I hope I never have to do it again. But I do agree with you. I think I follow the Box CEO on Twitter, and he was saying that his sales timelines have shrunk because Fortune 500 CEOs are all looking to them now to go into the cloud, to digitize, to do everything today that they were planning to do in 4 years because strategies have just shifted forward. I think that is one of the positives, if we can find a positive out of this, is the world is actually accelerating where it needs to and getting rid of the things that it should have. I mean, we spoke about it before we went live. I was shocked that Associated Magazines went under and is, as of today, not publishing anymore. But magazines have been on a decline for 10 years. They were going to have to shift their model at some point, and now they're either going to shut down or shift. So I think that's the kind of world we're moving towards anyways. I want to take on a question from the audience. The first one is from Peter Lewis. Does the Pago model allow for a small profit share with either a business or pickup and drop-off points? Is that how your model works?
No, exactly. So for every parcel that's delivered to the store, they get a few rands, and we pay to them.
Okay, great. And then from Becky, do you think an increase in remote work will help or harm home deliveries compared to click and collect and people going out to shop over time?
So that's also an interesting one. We overall are seeing that click and collect is going down a bit at the moment. More people are preferring a home delivery. So as I was telling you before, we see some clients where it went up to 50% click and collect, of their total orders, 50% click and collect, 50% home deliveries. And that has now gone back to 25% click and collect and 75% home deliveries. But it's not completely, it's still 25%. And this is like in the hard lockdown time, right? So still 25% is actually choosing for click and collect. So yes,
Wow.
that is going to on the click and collect side, that's hurting us a bit. So that's also why we're also looking at other ways and looking at alternative ways of making delivery almost COVID-19 proof. But what I also think is interesting is that, as I said, that there is still a percentage of people that have the other mindset that's saying, I would rather, I don't know what their mindset exactly, but something along the lines of, I would rather not have the risk of somebody coming to my house where my family is. I would rather just go and get it out. Don't know if that really makes sense, but at least that's what we are, what we're seeing.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Okay, let's go back to the questions that I've got for you. It's a really tough time to be a leader, especially of a dispersed team that's never done that before. So a couple of things. One, what's the most difficult thing that you found about leading in a crisis, and how has your team adapted to the remote work thing?
So I think the biggest challenge now is the uncertainty. It's just that, as I was saying before, we went through those phases. We kind of put everything in place, but it's just that it's so uncertain, and I think that's so we don't know what's next. We don't know when this is going to end. We don't know how it's going to look like when it ends. Right? We can only guess. And I mean, I'm fortunate that that I have some very good a very good support group around me, not just my team, but also shareholders, investors, also part of a few kind of global networks that are setting up a lot of calls, a few mentors that are helping me. So, I think overall, quite a lot of very experienced, very smart people that I'm trying to listen to, but nobody has an answer, right? Nobody knows how this is going to look like after this. And that I think is the most difficult thing. I would say that is timing and uncertainty about the future is obviously in any situation, that's, I guess, is the difference between the top entrepreneurs of the world versus the normal averages one. The top ones have made the right decision at the right time, and if you can do that right, that's going to thrive your business. That bit has just become more difficult, right? And as we're talking now about all these opportunities that we see, we think that I'm quite optimistic things are going to come out of this. So what does that mean, right? Does that mean that as a business, that we now go and hire 10 extra developers with the cost that's on that, right? But we're not making revenues now, but we expect them to come soon, but maybe they don't come soon, right? So all these kind of things, and in a normal world, you can kind of start predicting, especially after a couple of years, right? You start knowing these cycles. So I think that uncertainty is probably what makes, what is the most difficult thing. And I almost would say that I think everybody. I think it's also what you're now seeing in the South African population. I think in the beginning, if I just I saw that a lot of people are super sure about what we're doing, and like this is the right decision. And slowly, I'm reading on social media, people are starting to why are we still doing this? They're starting to question their leaders. They're starting to question their the president, the government. So I think that uncertainty is at this moment is the most difficult thing that we're dealing with.
And I'm curious, how do you kind of convey that security around uncertainty to your team? Is it over communication, under communicate? Like, what are you doing to keep your team cohesive?
So I think in terms of so much uncertainty, you have to start looking at things that are certain or that are still the same and that you do know, right? And for us as a company, for instance, our culture and our core values, and trying to stick with the things that we always did and things we know, right? So I also think it's interesting because in a time like this, we have like 6 core values, and it's always with culture and values. Like every startup has them. They put them on the wall. They talk about them. Like, are they? But culture is not what you put on the wall. Culture is what you are, what you do, what you live and breathe, kind of thing, right? So to me, it's been very interesting because I've always been thinking about it, and like, are we the things that we say we are, or are we saying one thing but are we doing the other thing? I think what's come out of this is that we are actually a lot of the things that are close to us, our culture and our values, are very, very important now. And one of the things that we have on the wall and what we think is very important is transparency, for instance, right? And we've been super transparent from day one to our team, or at least we're trying to be. But every week we have kind of communication wise, we're doing twice a week. We're doing a call with everybody on there. All the teams do their own kind of daily stand-ups, but they always used to do that, but that's not all online. But as a company, we're trying to do a call twice a week, and we kind of open about everything, about numbers, operational numbers, just everything that we would also talk about in the office maybe once a month. We're now talking twice a week about, right? Just to show people where we're going. We trying to do from a culture perspective, really trying to see, we have trying to get the fun still going. So thinking about, we have like our hero of the week, somebody that's been excelling at doing what they're doing. We're trying to set up, the guy set up like a Zoom coffee room so that you also just can still have a chat with each other, because, it's nice to have a weekly meeting where I'm talking, but it's more even nicer and more important to be talking to each other. We try to do some trivia games online, right? So like all these kind of little things just to kind of keep the spirits up. So I think that's super important, just to kind of keep the team together and make sure that people feel safe and listened to and all those kind of things.
That's great. I love the idea of a Zoom coffee room. Really smart idea. It kind of promotes that bumping into people at work and having a talk around a coffee or going to the coffee shop. I think that's a great. I'm gonna steal that from you guys. So talk to me about your co-founder relationship. I mean, this sort of crisis will either break co-founders or make them. So it sounds like you guys are doing quite a good job. How have you been coping with that?
Well, I'm lucky because Derek Hookert, my co-founder, and I, we've known each other for many years. What's it now? 12, 13 years. We were friends way before we started the company. So we know each other very, very well, and that relationship has always been very strong. So this doesn't really change that in any way. If I look at others, so like we're still daily on a call, but we would always do that. And normally, as I said, I would maybe be in Johannesburg, he'll be in Cape Town, and we also all the time on call. So that relationship is still good, and it's that hasn't changed a lot or at all actually during this crisis. What I have found is that at least from my perspective, from my feeling, the relationship and the feeling I have with my team and with the guys that I speak a lot with, so my management team, I think that has strengthened. I think I'm actually really, really really proud, really, really happy about how it's actually all brought us more together. I think people are working really hard. People are, really trying their best. Everybody's doing what they can to really make things happen. And there have been some opportunities, as I said, the one with Ray, and there's been a few others where we actually had to switch into gear and get things up and running in a few days, and people have kind of completely doubled down on that, and I think that's been super inspiring and great to see. And I do think I think that's not just a business thing. I can see that. I was thinking around me, and if I just think about this whole situation. If you're in a good relationship and you're, let's say at home even, and you're going through this lockdown, then I think it's going to be a positive thing almost, right? More time with your partner, maybe more time with your kids. I think for a lot of people, this is almost also a bit of a nice thing. If that relationship was not so good before you came into this, then it might be a very, very hard kind of 5 weeks. So I think it kind of just strengthens what was already happening in the business and in the relationship.
Yeah, I agree with that. So a lot of the conversations I'm having with entrepreneurs, the question that I get frequently is, should they be looking to raise funding? Should they be going to a bank to take out a loan? Should they use their credit cards to cover this business that they're doing? What's your feeling, not necessarily about Pargo, but what's your feeling about whether entrepreneurs should be looking to fund their businesses now, and in which way?
Yeah, look, if you can find funding, and you can use it in the right way to excel your business outside of this, then obviously do it. But I think it's going to be very difficult to find the funds. So I do know there's obviously the funds that have been put together by the government and by a few of the billionaires of this country, the Oppenheimers and Ruperts and Motsepes. Obviously, I think a few banks. I read, last time that Ramaphosa did his speech, he spoke about that all the banks will be a bit more lenient on funding. So I think if you can get some of that would also be great. And we are also as a business looking at those kind of opportunities. But venture capital or share like an investment from for equity, I think that's going to be very, very difficult. If you already have funders, then hopefully your current investors will look at it and help you through this. I think if you're a good business and they have been with you for a while, they probably would. But if you are going to go out to a venture capitalist today that you haven't, never spoke to, and you're going to ask them for some funding into your business, that's going to be very difficult. I think everybody's is going to think twice before they pay anything up. I do think, or at least one of the tips I've been, what I've been told, and I think that's a good one, is that you should think about it on the long term. So if you think this might not be the right moment, and again, I said before about uncertainty, we don't know when the right moment will be there. But the tip the experts have been telling me, at least, is saying, okay, don't start before September, August, the earliest. Don't think even about doing anything before that time, but start the discussion, right? Introduce yourself, try to have, the virtual coffee, make it clear to them that you don't need money from them, today, but that you just want to kind of hear about what they're doing and, what you're doing. And because at the end of the day, when you do need the funding, you need that relationship, and you can't, you can't just knock on somebody's door and say, hey, I need money. So I think it would be good to kind of start those relationships and try to get that discussion going. But I think actually getting funding now, and also in 6 months, it's still going to be the terms are not going to be great. Your valuations are going to be cut in half probably. But that's what I've been told, at least. So I think that's some good tips that I've received.
Yeah, I think anyone who hasn't raised funding before, they think that you can just pitch up to a VC's office, introduce yourself, give them a business plan, and raise money. And unfortunately, it's just not the way it works. Warm intros, long-term relationships, proven track records, that's how you raise funding. And if you're trying to do it now in a cold climate with a cold intro and a cold email, you're absolutely screwed. So I think great advice is to just start cultivating those relationships now and introduce people to your businesses and show them that you've got a trajectory. Then maybe you'll be in luck in 6 to 12 months. But raising money now, you're going to get shit terms and very small amounts of money.
There's just one thing I'd like to add, is that if you are in a business that, because obviously everybody is doing bad, right? So if you are in a business and you think, hey, listen, this is not my plan, I'm not doing great, but compared to everybody else, actually this is pretty good, this is not too bad, then obviously you would stand out. I mean, venture capitalists and investors they still have a bunch of money, right?
They still want to make money. Yeah,
they still have, if they still have a few million in the bank, they have to disperse that. They don't want to just hold on to it, right? So their criteria might be more strict, and the valuations won't be as high, but also, your company might still stand out, and it might actually be a right time to start that discussion again.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, a couple of questions from the crowd. Peter, where can I find a list of goods that are acceptable for delivery? I don't know if you know, Lars, but I have no idea where I can find a list like that.
If you go to News24 or My Broadband, any of the normal, the online publications would have articles around this, and most of them have put these long lists about what is allowed, what's not allowed, which phase is allowed. Just if you search around there, you'll find some information.
Cool. And I see Ashley actually did paste the list from the government, so we can use that one, Peter. And then for Pago business clients that run it as a side hustle and still have a full-time job, it is difficult to have to wait around for a courier to collect a parcel. Will Pago consider a drop-off service similar to the likes of Aramex drop-offs?
Yes. That's actually one of the projects that we were working on. That was going to be, we were hoping to launch that in these kind of weeks and months, but this is one of those things that we've kind of put on hold for now. So as I said, there's a lot of opportunities or new projects we were working on. This one just for now on hold until kind of things calm down, until we can actually have a team that goes to stores and set it up and all that kind of stuff. So
I think that's fair.
In the pipeline, but not yet.
Cool. So something I'm quite passionate about is breaking this entrepreneurial, what I've found the word to be struggle porn, that people are like struggling and proud of it. I'd slept 2 hours last night. I worked 7 days a week. I don't sleep. I don't eat. I don't train. I just work. I'm trying to break that because I think it's detrimental to any entrepreneur's life, but extremely hard in the lockdown to not want to work all the time. Personally, I'm struggling to sleep because my brain is just on fire nonstop. So how are you coping with the mental side of being in lockdown, being at home and working all the time?
Yeah. Well, I think, the first bit about that kind of that the bragging about the long hours. I've never met a successful entrepreneur that brags about his or her long hours. I know a few that work really hard, but they'll never ever talk about it, right? they won't brag. So I think if people are bragging about it, people are announcing it, then I already think that's a red flag. It probably means they're not working very efficiently, if anything else.
Yeah.
The mentors, I think, to me, like anybody else, it's been hard, right? But one of the things what I at least told my team very early on is like, guys, like we're all at home, we're all trying our best, we all have good days and we all have bad days, and especially if you're also at home with children and they are asking for attention and seeking attention, I guess it's all okay, right? I don't expect everybody to clock in exactly at 8 o'clock and to clock out at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock and to be working that whole time, right? Like that's you have your kids, you have stuff to do, and you have good days and you have bad days. And I think at least what we did is made that also very clear from day one. Is like I had the same thing, and I in my personal case, I had a lot of more bad days when it just started, and then I very quickly went back to normal. And now for me, I'm actually used to it. I'm really happy that since today we're allowed to go for a run again, but I've also put some things in place. So, I mean, trying to have a daily routine. And so what happens is that I have, a very good friend who loves his CrossFit. And what he's set up is a daily, every day at 6 o'clock in the evening, we do a group on Zoom. And I think it's now 40 friends all over the world is signing into this. And it's awesome, right? And it's to me, that's kind of my, it keeps me sane. And even if I'm very busy, I still do that at 6 o'clock because you can just do that for an hour and then have some food and then finish your work later if you have to. But I'm also trying, with my partner, trying to do a lot of fun things. Trying to do, I think a lot of people have been doing that, but cooking nicely, having a nice meal in the evening, cooking together, having a Zoom with my friends. I have a weekly Zoom poker night, and we just. Nice. Have a bit of banter and talk, and it's just like this stuff that we would all trying to mimic, my normal life as much as I can, but also trying to keep the work-life balance, trying to keep that in there, right? And I also think, especially if you have a partner or a family, then it's the fact that you can't go outside doesn't mean that other people would also want your attention and also want to do something together. So like if you're just working behind your laptop all the time, I also think that might not reflect really well on them. So yeah, I think it's important. I agree with you. I think it's important to have a good balance and to just try to get try to get all the elements of exercise, sleep, time off, and work, kind of in a balanced way throughout your life. And that's, I think, is even more important now than it would otherwise be. The one thing maybe is it's just I'm working way more efficient. I can get way more done in my 8 to 5 than I would normally do. I normally actually, a lot of my work, my kind of own work, started at 5. When everybody left, then I would still have 2-3 hours in the evening where I would be doing my emails and all the other stuff. Like it's now just way.
That's a great observation. I've found the same thing. And it's so interesting. I'm trying to reframe the idea of hard work, that when I'm working, I work really efficiently. And then it's okay if I watch an hour of Netflix in the middle of the day, go back to work for 2 hours, as long as it's hard work when you're working. And that's kind of adapting to this idea of working at home in a pandemic. I don't like to call it work from home because we're not. We're working in a pandemic and being forced to be at home. Those things are different. I mean, I'm sitting on a bench in my bedroom with a makeshift desk. That is not work from home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So Lars, that's really it from me. I wanted to ask you to give us some parting words. Tell everyone like where they can find you, follow you, go find out about Pargo, whatever you would like to, and then we'll sign off.
Cool. Yeah. Pargo.co.today. All our information is on there. If you want to work together, if you need any deliveries done, let us know, and we'll give you a call. I'll give you an email. And otherwise, that's it. Thanks so much for having me, Nick. I think this was great. Cool. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I really appreciate your time. I look forward to seeing Pargo grow. I absolutely love the idea of click and collect, and I'm glad to see South Africa's taking to it. Good luck with the levels coming down and your business going up. Have a good weekend.
Great. Yeah, thanks. You too. Have a good one.
Cheers.
Ciao. Cheers.